Black Female Project.
This is Leslie Stoval, your guest host for the Black Female Project podcast. Learn more about our work at www.blackfemaleproject.org. Hi, I'm Leslie Stoval. Our next guest for the Black Female Project is April Fenall, and she's a business professional with a background in marketing and communications, bringing over 15 years of broad experience working in the retail and service industries and across multiple college campuses in Sacramento. She received a BA degree in intercultural communications from Cal State University, Sacramento. And she's also the founder of Piikup, a socially responsible delivery hub in the Bay Area that supports food, retail, and other businesses with local logistics support. Created in 2015 as a part of the solution to strengthen communities and empower and uplift people who are not only looking to change their narrative in need of a first chance, and often second chance, but also to help them level up in their technical skills so that they can gain the type of employment that will sustain them. In her spare time, you can find April mentoring entrepreneurs in the early stages of starting a business or teaching adult learners how to use 21st century applications needed in the Bay Area job markets of the future. And we want to welcome April Fenall.
Thank you.
What's your hometown?
Richmond.
And how old are you?
45, last I checked.
And where'd you live by?
Ooh, no regrets.
And if you could put 4 Black females on Mount Rushmore, which ones would they be?
Ooh, I love that question. Wow. I can't answer that question today. I
Well,
have to think about
if you think of somebody else while we're talking, just let me know.
Okay.
So, communications and marketing, what
Right.
have been your challenges as a Black woman in that field? Because advertising is very niche oriented.
It's funny you ask that question because when I first getting out of college with that degree, I'm not sure I had an idea of what I was going to do with it. I just knew that it was a broad enough degree where I didn't have to feel boxed in. And it's intercultural communication. So what I thought at the time.
What does that mean?
Well, what that means is we're talking about the nitty gritty of cultures and how they communicate, how we're communicated to, how we're marketed to. So originally I wanted to get into truth in advertising. And because of what you're saying, as a business owner, as a Black woman, the messaging and that narrative of how we were being spoken about and how that story was being told, I thought that it was lies. So I wanted to figure out how to be more honest in the way we market and how I could take back control of the story.
And social media helps, doesn't it?
It does help because in school, that's definitely not something that we had at the time. Like when I was in high school and early college, it was like just starting to come out.
Right.
So I've dived into social media more as an adult, for sure. And definitely as a business owner, yeah.
So how do you interface with corporate America?
Intentionally and carefully. Yeah, so.
Flesh that out for me.
Intentional is that I try to show up in any space as my authentic self. So
what does that mean?
That means that, like most people, they have a past and then they have that life that as you show up today. And what happens is you leave a piece of that at the door, from my experience working in corporate spaces.
Wear your corporate mask?
Yeah, a mask. And it's also, it's by design, or it's just because we've continued to perpetuate that model. And so at some point, I think my last tech role, it's not that I couldn't tell anyone that I was gay or that I was bisexual. I couldn't tell anyone that I was a person with a disability. I couldn't tell anyone that, I had been to jail several times across several counties. Like I couldn't tell anyone about that past. And if it wasn't that I couldn't tell them, the assumption is that you didn't, or that I had been homeless. The assumption was that you're just coming and you're squeaky clean. But if you're showing up as your whole self in life, you're talking about what's happening in life, and some of that past stuff comes up. And I never felt comfortable comfortable, safe to have that dialogue in any corporate space ever.
But don't you think everybody in corporate America role plays?
I don't know.
I mean, there's a corporate outlook.
I think that everybody role plays. It's just not specific to corporate spaces. And Like even in dating, I say, show up as yourself, not as your representative.
And
The
how's that worked out
representative
for
is going to
you?
be super, you know what? It's cut to the chase to save me some time. I appreciate it.
I bet it did. I bet it did.
Yeah.
Okay, who am I speaking with? Who am I really
Yeah,
dealing
your
with?
representative that's all like dolled up and made up, or like the real you. And I prefer to see the real you. At least give me a hybrid, right? Don't give me the super raw, but don't give me the one that's just like doesn't have any context.
Yeah, that's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So what challenges have you encountered being your authentic self in corporate America?
It's more so the imposter syndrome. So
What's
the challenge is getting over the imposter syndrome that you belong in whatever space you show up in. The people that I employ, but then there's also when I show up in this space as a business owner in corporate spaces, pitching, fundraising, whatever I'm doing, a piece of that path will creep up to say, these are the things that society has already deemed unworthy of whatever, love, time, understanding, and empathy. And so, especially around things like drugs or homelessness or being involved with the law. So that imposter syndrome is something that was a challenge, but now I'm to a point in my life at this stage as a business owner, unapologetically showing up as my whole self so that I can give people permission to do the same.
That's an interesting point. It's a very interesting point. So to me, it would be like relieving a little bit of stress.
Hella stress. Hella stress. I've relieved the stress, but it still comes, again, the challenges that I face. One, it's an internal challenge of making sure I'm always surrounding myself by representation. People that can show me I showed up as myself. They gave me permission to show up and not be afraid and not feel like I don't belong there. And it's like that ripple effect. But I still do face challenges because even though I'm solid in myself, I've already been perceived. Somebody, I think it was a comedian once said recently, Childish Gambino, he said, I want to be void, I want to be white. People are like, what the hell do you mean by that?
I remember that. Yeah, recently.
So what that means is when a Black person walks in the door, there's already a set number of things that you people have said who that person can be or is. When a white person walks into the room, they could be anybody. Whether or not I agree with that 100%, I just know that there's some truth in it. And even some truth of how I have thought about myself. And so it's extremely freeing to be at that stage. And it's something that...
How did you achieve that?
Well, no regrets. That's because that's what I live by. If I don't do it now at the halfway point of being 45, 46, then I never will.
Right.
So the people that I work with tend to be in that age group. They are trying to rewrite their story. They're trying to change their narrative from something that maybe they weren't a productive, positive citizen to now being part of the solution instead of part of the problem.
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Amen to that. So marketing. What challenges have you found in marketing? Because marketing is so difficult.
I don't find challenges. I'm one of those probably rare people where anything that's a challenge, I find it as an opportunity. I just don't see it as a challenge.
What opportunities have you found?
The opportunity to tell our story, to tell it often and to not be ashamed or afraid and to use it as leverage. Yeah, it's a great time, I think, for marketing and for storytelling. And that, if anything, it's conversational marketing. It isn't the type of marketing where we're flipping through our magazines, and it's like, it's more truth. It's more relevant, I think, to people's everyday lives. And again, I said earlier about representation. I think marketing is a lot about representation, and a lot of the corporate brands, they know that too. And so they're trying to place us in that, but it's very, that placement of representation in their marketing sometimes is empty.
What do you mean by
It's
empty?
placement for transaction. It's not placement because that's true in the heart of, because it's the right thing to do.
It's imaging.
It's imaging. It's showing up as the representative and not,
But
all that.
marketing and advertising and whatnot, it's a broad brush, with everything.
Right. So I choose to go deeper instead of just having these broad strokes, to go really deeper so that the marketing can be long term.
And don't you think that there's so many platforms out there that enables you to do that kind of marketing?
Yes, more so.
Narrowcast,
Yes,
as opposed to the broad brush.
right. Instead of throwing out the fishnet. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It's interesting how technology has really, I think, made marketing much more technical and scientific.
It's also made it fast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's quick, and then the story of like a fake news. And me, I pay attention to more to really local, concentrated issues that are within my community of the Bay Area. But I'm also paying attention to the national and global messaging as well.
And that informs what you do locally, of course.
Absolutely.
It's just a fascinating time for marketing and communications, because there's so many ways to get your message out there, but you have to be intelligent about your messaging. Because like I said before, I'm over here sending a message to you over here, but what's in between, I have no control of it.
Yeah. Right. What's in between to intercept the message?
Right. So I have to be clear on my messaging.
Right.
And I have to understand my audience, who
Absolutely.
I'm directing it to.
I think you should arrive to understanding your audience because you built a relationship with them that wasn't transactional.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So as a Black female, why do you think now it seems like Black females are really making strides and going to the forefront, and people are really listening and understanding? What has been the cultural shift or change?
Well, I think that it's due to just where we live. The Bay Area is ripe for just getting our voices elevated, right? There's a lot happening where we're trying to do this in San Francisco. Maybe you would feel like it was just a few of us, but in Oakland, it's a different story. So,
but even nationally, you see Black women getting into Congress, CEO of Starbucks, all that. Why is this happening now?
Because it's time for it to happen. It's overdue for it to happen. It should have happened sooner.
But I guess I'm saying, what do you think is the tipping point?
I don't know what the tipping point is. I'm just happy that it's happening now, and that I am awake and motivated and in a position in my life where I can be a part of that. So, and quite honestly, maybe that's what's happening, is that people are tired. They don't feel alone, and that there are groups that are doing the work so that they don't have to feel like they have to create a movement or hold it all, that there are things that they can tap into. Just kind of talking about voting and things like that. And I have friends that are now running for offices, and so I'm super engaged. But you would have caught me 10 years ago, I'm like, who's running for mayor? I don't know, don't really care. I didn't feel like those things impacted my life, even though of course it did, but I wasn't woke enough. So it's just a whole lot of woke folks.
Yeah, and I think a part of it is like there's so much more education now. You know, so people can like think for themselves and say, well, I can do this, I can change or whatever. But I think that's very important, the education level. Right. And more people going to college. And to me, the most important thing about college is it teaches you how to think. Right.
It should teach you how to think. Sometimes I have a love-hate relationship with higher education. Don't my schools get on me, but I do. I feel that everybody's not cut out for the college track.
Oh, absolutely.
And college can, if you don't have the right instructors, teach you how to be taught to. teach you how to sit and absorb information versus teaching you how to think.
But isn't that incumbent on each of us individually to learn how to think?
Yes. However, there needs to be some infusion of a new model within higher education.
And intellectual curiosity?
Something that's more project-based, that you can apply less theory and more application.
So you're talking trade school?
No, I'm talking about a hybrid.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, I understand that. So if you could give some words of wisdom, hybrid, if you will.
Sure.
To women of color who are in corporate America, and how to put your best foot forward and be confident and know that you're doing the right thing.
Words of wisdom. Know that you're not alone. Reach out. Find somebody. Like at 45, I started thinking back about who were the women in my life that were impactful and that were mentors without ever really holding the title of mentor, but they were mentors for sure. I was like, oh my God. I had so many, from teachers to family friends to family members. And so what I would encourage anyone to do is to take stock of their social capital. And if you find that
social capital,
what's
that?
That's more than just having a friend or an associate. That a social capital is somebody that can help you level up. It can help you navigate space. You can fall back on them for information or advice. It's not someone that's just going to go to the club with you.
The club.
Yeah.
Okay. I got you.
That's social capital, and that's something that I definitely have now, but didn't have 10 years ago.
How do you invest that capital? How do I invest?
Well, what I do is, like I'm here today.
The Black Female Project.
Exactly. I show up. I give my time. I give my expertise. I invest into the people that invest in me.
That's a good policy. Well, we want to thank you for coming out and supporting the Black Female Project and your marketing and communications. We look forward to seeing it for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Leslie.
Black Female Project.
Thank you for listening to the Black Female Project podcast. Black Female Project works to positively impact the wellness and professional experience of Black women. We celebrate women who thrive at work and share their stories with the girls coming behind us. Learn more at www.blackfemaleproject.org. Follow us on social media at Black Female Project. This is Leslie Stoval. Thanks for listening to the Black Female Project podcast.